We did
Nailed it.
it.
You got out of practice while I was on medical leave. That's what happened.
Yeah, and I can't like there's too many options, and so I can't remember which one is which. So it's like it's just
I
roll the
bet we could
dice.
delete all the ones we don't want. I think we can do that now.
Yeah, well, I
We'll
will
look
do
at it
that.
later.
I'll take a note
Well,
to do that.
yeah, that immediate like engineering need of like, but I could fix it right now. Um. Anyhow, yeah. Hello, GitOpsians. Good morning, afternoon. It's Johnny's evening since he moved across the pond.
Yeah.
Um. So we were supposed to do this stream last week, and then I fell down the stairs. Um. That's the stream cadence changing, which I think people don't even notice. I think they just rely on us posting about it on LinkedIn to show up here. But for those of you who do notice, sorry about the delay. I'll try not to fall down my stairs in the future. My doctors would certainly appreciate it if I avoided that. Um, but yeah, so today's stream's about AIOps, which I'm if you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll know that I'm working with a couple of folks, Robert Raytai and Andy Gabner. Grabner. Shoot, I always forget exactly how you say his name. From Dynatrace, my good friend. We wrote the platform engineering book together. And we're writing another book about AI ops, and we're partway through it. I'm excited about it because when we finished the outline, I was like, "Ooh, I want to read this book." Writing it is such a beast, though, because it requires such careful experimentation, such like it's it's really one of those things you got to really handle with care. Um, and so generally speaking, it's kind of like you and Johnny are just going to kind of discuss it in general. I think one of the things I like the part of the book I just wrote was kind of comparing AI ops to just automation and kind
Hmm.
of like I think that's really um where our discussion is going to land today because um I have so many thoughts after doing and we've done uh interviews with industry experts and people who've been doing this stuff like on the ground. I have read every single book and every single like blog that I possibly can, and there are a lot of those. In fact, that was most of what I spent my medical leave doing. I did a lot of reading on this stuff. Um, and like I even set up a home lab, which I almost never have a home lab, so that's pretty serious.
Nice.
I'm always too lazy to have a home lab. But yeah, so overall, just kind of introduction to the topic. AI ops is it's kind of like a buzzwordy term, right? It's just applying artificial intelligence to operations. Um, and that operations is such a big umbrella term, right? Because there's not one like you never have just one operations team in like an enterprise. You always have various teams and they all have various like operational responsibilities, right? You'll have your IT infrastructure and that NOC, right? The network operations, right? You've got like maybe you have SRE and their operations, and then you might have a platform engineering team and their operations, and maybe some of those are all the same people or not. It all can vary. So like operations doesn't have one meaning per se, although it definitely has some themes. Um, and so yeah, but so AI ops, and then there's a fun intersection with AI ops and observability, and also with GitOps. Um, yeah, so I'm not sure if we want to start in any one specific place. Like I've looked at SRE agents, I've looked at um, well, a lot of SRE agents because I'm still a reliability engineer. That's still my title. um,
Hmm.
still what I do here theoretically. And so yeah, I don't know. But Johnny, you mentioned you were looking into a bunch of stuff too. So like, did you have any highlights from the stuff that you were looking into lately?
I was just looking at I found this course on Pluralsight, I think is what it was, and they were kind of going through like some of the like free demos that you can get through like Databricks, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. It's just, but it was more of, like the like really high level concept, right? Like you've got a
Mm-hmm.
model, you build the model, you push it into the pipeline, and then like you're basically um it's like where you're tagging your artifacts so that way when you go back and you're trying to pull them back together, it's like it's just it's that data pipeline. And then it had
Yeah.
me kind of thinking of like some of the stuff that we do, especially on the patterns team. Like we've got the one medical diagnosis where it's like it's a pre-built model that it's meant to assess these x-rays that come through it and then make a determination risk assessment based off of off the X-ray. And then there's other ones that we have like the RAG LLM, which is where it's hey, I've got this documentation stuff, like I want to pull it all together. Maybe I want to create a quick statement of work or something like that. And so it's just it, I don't know. My main focus usually is from like the back end, like getting the infrastructure set up and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So it's always interesting to me to kind of go and mess with all these different tools and it's oh cool. Well, I mean, the pipelines are always fun and stuff like that, but it's not really my thing.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. So when you talk about the data tagging, right? That's one of the things like in observability best practices, like tagging your data, basically having metadata to your data so that you can do sampling and tracing. Like those are best
Hmm.
practices anyway. Um, I think the advantage of an LLM over like traditional automation is you don't need to like every time you add a new tag, you don't need to like hand code all of the exact paths for it. The LLM can either identify and interpret things with a lot less instruction,
Hmm.
or it can kind of help you to do that like for you. It just kind of depends on the application. So I think so far like kind of the theme that we're seeing is most people are not letting their AI agents like self-pilot, right? They're using it as a co-pilot. And
Hmm.
but yeah, like having like if you do data tagging, right? Let's just say you are running a production incident. One thing that you can do is tell the LLM, all right, this is what we're looking at. This is the context of what we're trying to solve. Go get me the logs, the traces, and the metrics that are relevant. And it's kind of tool agnostic, especially when you like add things like MCP servers and so forth to it, so it can like
Hmm.
making it more purpose built, so it can understand how to interface with things like Dynatrace or New Relic or Datadog. I'm assuming these all have MCP servers at this point. I haven't actually checked. There's actually an MCP server for Argo CD that I think Acuity put out. Somebody can Daniel's here. Daniel can fact check me if I forgot if I didn't get that correct, but I believe I saw they have one. Oh, you get it from Argo, like wherever you've augmented your LLM with to allow it to run in a more purpose built way. Um, it can kind of go do that. So it gets to be tool agnostic, which is really like the what can be very powerful about it. And that kind of like allows your observability to just like follow best practices in a more general sense, and you don't have to be as like as merited. It also can help with because not every like observe like Prometheus and open telemetry, for example, are two different ways of getting metrics. They just have different philosophies. I actually went to a really great talk by maintainers of both that was like jointly presented at KubeCon in London on the like the day zero events. I forget which hall I wandered into, honestly, for that one, but it was an excellent talk. I saved the slides even. And they had different philosophies to data aggregation and sampling when they kind of were building them up. And so a lot of people love OTel, and for good reason. But there's still some things about Prometheus that may make sense. And so when you are able to kind of like put an abstraction layer in front of those tools, you don't have to be as dogmatic. You can, or even if you are wanting to be dogmatic, but you still have to go through this migration path, right? You can still get the benefit of both in kind of a single pane of glass type of experience with something like an AI assistant or an AI agent, depending. And again, like assistant is it does what you tell it to. Agent is it does what it thinks it needs to. Agents are more just like event driven. And assistants are not. I mean, it's still technically you telling it to do something is an event, but it's not. It's not the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so that all can get kind of really cool, and that's where we kind of start seeing like that kind of like almost it feels like magic type of experience. In at least like an SRE style operation team where it's like okay, we've got maybe all of these different metric sources. We can have teams that have different ways of doing logging and different ways of doing tracing. Maybe this team over here is using Sentry, and this team over here is using some competitor to Sentry because I cannot like brain think of Loki.
Hmm.
Right, something like that. It kind of doesn't matter. You can, if you're looking at like the system as a whole, right? you're a platform engineer and you're looking at the system as a whole and you're trying to figure out, why are these nodes crashing? That does happen quite a bit. Like, why are these Kubernetes nodes crashing? Then you can kind of pull from all the sources and bring together and let the AI kind of do the identification of like, okay, what metrics might be the most relevant, what logs might be the most relevant. And I would say it's typically pretty good with that. It's fairly accurate. I don't think it's perfect, but it can do a really good job. So that's kind of really nice. It's in human hours cheaper. I think once you have it up and running, it's cheaper, and like the long-term maintenance. I think computationally it's more expensive, obviously, and
Especially if you need a GPU.
especially if you need a GPU. Yep. And so like in that way, automation is more lightweight, does take person hours to maintain and implement the connections across the various places to do the same thing. Not as easily tool agnostic, although you can kind of get it there. But computationally, a lot of it could just like run on a Raspberry Pi. Like it doesn't need a lot. And I think that's kind of the thing that as an industry with AIOps, we're still kind of figuring out is when does the AI AI assistant, AI agent, AI whatever, when does AIOps really have the biggest advantage over just traditional automation approaches? Especially when you can like use AI to write the automation for you and it's gonna be okay. I'm actually pretty impressed with how things like Claude Code and so forth are working. We have instructions to use these things as part of our performance and development goals, which I think a lot of people can relate to. And I was like, oh, I want to throw up a proof of concept pull request to supplement an architectural change I'm proposing, and I don't care if it's like good enough to be merged because it's just illustrative. And so I had Claude Code do it for me, and it took a couple of hours of like coaching it and having it be aware of all the dependencies that maybe weren't as obvious and so on. And but once it finally got the proof of concept up, like there's definitely places where I'm like, yeah, you know what, we've got some like code repetition here that we could probably refactor into a generic, and there's some other little things around the place that are like, but overall it was pretty cool. It did a pretty good job, especially for the scope of the proof of concept. And so that's the other thing for operations. It's like, maybe you don't want an AI agent. Maybe you don't have the compute available for something like that to be running all the time, but you can still supplement your automation by like effectively getting an automated intern. I
Yeah.
would say
But
it's like an automated
I,
intern.
the little bit that I've been using it, I think that I like the commenting. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, damn it, I need to be better about doing that. Or my bad, dang it, I need to be better about doing that. Because like we write stuff all the time, and like I'll go in and I'll add a comment with that I think is amazing. But then like I look at something like this where I'm like, hey, I want to do X, and it's like, oh, that's a great idea, and it shows you, and then it's got all these little pointers. I'm like, dang, that's yeah, that's pretty cool. So,
I
and
think
I think a lot of times it's just figuring out the intersection, right? Like
yeah.
when do you do the handoff? When do you go from like the assistant to the agentic, right? Like
Yeah.
when do I want you to do the thing versus tell me what to do? And then how do we check that so that way we're not injecting some hallucination into the, or
Hmm.
some craziness.
Yeah. I'm hearing from a lot of people that they're using like supplementing it with like traditional machine learning.
Hmm.
And once they have that in place, then that's when they're kind of letting it go off to be more agentic versus assistant. Um, I like functionally doing this in like there's actually a lot to like that's non-trivial. I think it's like kind of like the tech stack should look familiar. I think it's still like Jupyter notebooks and
Mhm.
the all the things that if you're in machine learning or work with machine learning, like you'll be somewhat familiar with. I've done very, very, very little machine learning. So that's kind of very interesting and eye-opening and like I said, this whole experience of working on this stuff has been very educational for me. So that level of tuning though that some folks are doing, I get why they are. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? They need to. These are people who are working on enterprise products, highly regulated environments. Um,
Self-driving cars, right? I mean, like,
I that type of thing. I haven't talked to anybody specifically doing self-driving cars, and I don't think I'd be allowed to tell you if I have. Simply because like some folks are like, yeah, you can quote me and like cite me and all this other stuff, and that's totally okay. And some people are like, no, like I'm not really comfortable with like they're only talking in very general senses. They're like, they're just like talking about the patterns. So, and they're like, and also don't quote me. So as like one person who's like, I just don't want to be quoted. I don't think they're not, no one's sitting here spilling state secrets or anything like that
right.
crazy. They're professionals, but we are generally when we're talking to these experts, we are asking them very general questions so as to not accidentally run afoul of anything that they're not supposed to share.
Yeah.
We're trying to be really respectful on that. So NDAs are no joke, my friends. Let me tell you, these non-disclosure
So,
agreements are brutal.
did you guys look at any of the Lightspeed stuff, or I know you were saying a lot of the agnostic pieces. So, like, did you look at like Ansible Lightspeed or OpenShift Lightspeed or anything?
Yeah, and so we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about things like LLMD, which is like the Red Hat product that kind of like brings observability to the to your AI, because like if you're running AI, you also must observe your AI, and what does that even look
Hmm.
like? Right, that's a whole new paradigm, which is lots of fun. So yeah, we're bringing in a lot that the book will feature a bunch of Red Hat stuff because I'm lazy and it's what I have easy access and knowledge sharing to. But we're trying to keep it very agnostic because this is not a book sponsored by any one company. It's just a bunch of us working together. So we are going to reference a lot of tools and a lot of companies and their offerings, simply because we're not specifically endorsing any one pattern. But all of the examples that we give, like the code examples and technical examples, are going to be done with things that are open source.
Yeah, that's
So
cool.
that's kind of, and that's where a lot of the Red Hat stuff comes in, because it's all open source, so it's really low barrier to entry, very easy. There's a huge benefit to working at an open source company for that reason.
Hmm.
But yeah, so it definitely what we're kind of, and what we will be exploring in our book. Like I said, it's a pretty like wide ranging book. It's like using AI for operations in an assistant mode, in an agentic mode. What kind of like what that looks like functionally, real life. Like we do in the platform engineering book, we did a fictitious company to kind of like tie in the theory into concrete examples. That was a last minute addition that we like kind of realized would be a good idea, like deep into the process. Um, this time we're doing the same thing, but it's like up front and center. So we actually are going to have full chapters of like examples of like what a company who is doing AIOps, like what their journey would be, like what the phases would be to getting to a good end state, with like best practices, like and examples of those best practices applied to fictitious business cases. Um, so we're doing the same thing again. I think that's really going to be the most powerful thing in the book, and it's not even the chapters I'm writing. um, and then, but yeah, it's interesting because we also have like one of the things that I am writing is all the security considerations about this stuff. There's a ton of security stuff involved here. Um, whether you're running, what kind of data do you have? What kind of environment are you? What are you actually like having the LLM look like? What is it sending back to its parent? Are you running a standalone isolated model like locally? And then also the risks, like catastrophic forgetting is a really fun one where the LLM just loses all of its understanding and you basically just have to like delete it and start over. You can
Oh,
recover from
dang.
it. Yeah, you can't. Theoretically, you can recover from it, but it's like such a complicated thing that if it were me, I would just like have a disaster
Reload.
recovery plan for my LLM and just like kill it and stand it up from its last known good point.
So wait, when does this book come out? It sounds like
It's going to come
you're
out
pretty much
early
done.
next year. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're targeting February, but like this is a non-trivial book to write. So if we end up in
Hmm.
March or something, I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay. Okay. So it's not done. Are you guys like almost done? Because it sounds like you guys have got it.
We've got
Sounds like it's close.
10 chapters to write, and I think we have finished 4.
Oh, okay.
There's a
You still
lot
got
to
some work to
do.
do.
There's a
Yeah.
lot to do. There's a lot to do. But so one of the process things that you do is you actually submit a completed outline.
Hmm.
So you say, okay, this is what the book's going to cover. These are the chapters. This is what each chapter is going to have to a certain, like a pretty high level of detail. I think the outline is like 30 pages. And that's like 1/10 of the final book product. The final book would be somewhere 300 something pages, right?
Right.
So then we do that, and then it's an issue of we are assuming we have to assume a certain level of context with our audience, like a certain level, like this is not a book that you're going to
Yeah.
pick up as a brand, like a college student reading this book is going to not understand some stuff. We're trying, but we just don't have that many pages. So typically speaking, this is a book like targeted towards folks who've been in operations and dealt with observability tooling for a while, because I can't explain to you like from the ground up how
Hmm.
to use Prometheus. I need to assume you already have a concept of it so that we can kind of get to the relevant aspect, which is then how do we bring AI into the situation, right? So that's kind of an interesting that's
Yeah.
always an interesting challenge, is exactly how much context do we add. And that's one of the things that when we're working with the publisher and their editors, they'll ask us, like, is it reasonable to assume your reader will know what this means, or do we need to explain it? And it's like, some of it's like an easy, I added 2 sentences and I think that adds sufficient context. Like some of it's that easy, and some of it is like, if they don't get this, I can't help them. Like
Yeah. It's as low as it's
um
gonna go. Yeah.
it's as low as it's going to go here, otherwise we need another 30 40 entire book, right?
Yeah.
So that's always the real, that's always the fun process with writing a book on any topic. And then we have to be so careful, because I don't want to what we're trying to do is like, we're trying to bring like an interpretation of what we think is correct based on our backgrounds and expertise, which we all have slightly different but related backgrounds. So we all are like, even amongst ourselves as the 3 authors, we are discussing, where do we want to land on this? Where do we want to land on this? Like, what is our
Hmm.
recommendation here? And hence why we conducted interviews with people across the industry, is because we're like, we're 3 people and this is a giant topic, right? So we're trying to be really careful, like not bias anybody towards anything, and just be like very fact-based, like this is today how this works. And it's also hard because this technology space is moving so fast
Right.
that we don't want to leave ourselves where we're in 1 year, we're dated, right? Like one year from book release and then it's all out of date would be kind of not helpful. So trying to stick to what is like patterns of for success based on like history, individual, like our histories with our work experience, and then like kind of like industry wide what we're seeing. But yeah, no, it's very interesting, the whole and like the whole AI space in general. I hear a lot of people say it feels like a solution in search of a problem, and I think like I understand that perspective, because I think there's a lot of, oh, how can we use this? Everybody's asking, how
Hmm.
can we use this? I don't think it was a solution in search of a problem at conception. I think that we, by like having this kind of like, ooh, shiny,
Yes.
have kind of turned it into that. And I think what I'm finding with it is, if you're already good at something, then your AI assistant will help you to be more efficient at what you're already good at. So I don't think it can help you do things you're not good at. And I think that's where in operations, the danger is, because you don't, you need to have some expertise of the operations of your system in order to successfully guide and train and then ultimately kind of like send off into the wild an AI agent. It's a simpler way of encoding human knowledge because like in automation, you literally have to have like a line of code automation for everything that you know. And with an LLM based thing, you actually can kind of impart that knowledge onto it in like in plain human language. So it's more simply like it's the same thing as me theoretically the same thing as me explaining to you as an engineer onboarding to my team how something works. It also can be dangerous though, because like one of the dangers I'm seeing is that this may lend us going back towards tribal knowledge, where the AI assistant has like you can have an AI assistant and an AI agent working together in concert, which is pretty cool. Although like computationally kind of expensive, we are frying eggs. So like, but you do run a risk of tribal knowledge. But one thing that you can do is get the assistant to spit out documentation more regularly. So there's some trade-offs, right? Like I know in operations teams, there's a lot of tribal knowledge. You know stuff about your environment that is not necessarily immediately apparent, or like let's be real, we're working on big hypervisors and sometimes their documentation is wrong or not up to date. How often does that happen? So then you figure out that the documentation is wrong and maybe you wrote that down somewhere, but like getting that to be out of your head and into the global awareness of a team is actually really challenging, because like you can write it down somewhere like a wiki and you can send an email to your team, hey, I wrote this down somewhere and it's over here. But then you onboard somebody new, and unless they go read every page of the wiki or somebody remembers to tell them, hey, go check over here, now it's tribal knowledge. Because the newer person didn't, like, unless you have a very, very, very thorough onboarding process that imparts every single piece of tribal knowledge to a new person, which is impossible, they're not going to know that. Your AI assistant, though, if it's set up to go like continuously like read your wiki and update your wiki, it can do that. It can be the holder of tribal knowledge. But if you don't remember, or if you don't proactively set it up to be doing these things, well, I guess it's an agent if it's writing to the. It's silly. It's an assistant when you're asking, and it's an agent when it's doing write actions. And I'm just gonna call it AI and be done with the differentiation right now. But like you have your AI set up to be proactively doing these things, like that can help a lot. Then you can ask it the questions, and it will know, and hopefully it will know because it wrote the thing down, and we validated the thing it wrote down was correct at some point. So there is that benefit, but there's the risk. Like if you don't think about the risk of the AI holding all the tribal knowledge and think about how to mitigate that, then you may end up with a system that can only be navigated via tribal knowledge that no human has. So then the humans don't know the correct questions to ask. And that's it. You have to know what the right questions are. And I think that's a lot about kind of the like where prompt engineering comes in. Like I was like, prompt engineering sounds like a silly word, and I don't know that we could have come up with a better term to it, because it's very easy to be like, prompt engineering is nothing. It really is, because when you understand how AI like works under the hood and like the math involved and so forth, asking the right questions, it's the same as being good at like asking Google for stuff. And it's gotten easier to get things out of like Google specifically than it used to be, but you still need to know how to ask the search engine in the right way that you're going to get a good result.
Yeah, I think the way I learned how to Google. I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
I was in this training once, and I was like, I used to be very verbose, blah 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 blah, right? And this guy I was hanging out with, he was like, no, he's like, if you want to get the right result, you gotta act like an idiot. Just ask it like an idiot. And so then, no details, just ask the question.
Ask it
And
like you're 5.
it's like, yes, and it's like, holy crap, that's actually super useful. And then with
Yeah.
the agent or the prompting, Redbeard, like I was on a call with him one day, and he was just like, he was walking through it. And he was talking. Here's how I would do this. He's like, as a system administrator, I want to
Yeah,
know
it's
this.
very
And I was like,
verbose.
holy crap! Like, yeah,
It's the
it's
exact
funny.
opposite, actually.
Yeah.
It is the exact opposite. Whereas like you would Google something in the most terse way, you're going to ask the AI in the most explicit way. You're going to be like very, very, very careful. I have a great example of this, which will be in the book. It was from something that I saw in reality. Like I've seen TCP socket exhaustion. And
Yep.
so then like you get a Kubernetes node that crashes because of TCP right? Out of memory. And so I asked the AI, like, how would you troubleshoot this? And it brought up firewalls. And I was like, how are firewalls related to this? And it kind of didn't understand. Like, there is a type of firewall. I forget the exact details, but I had to go research this because like a firewall should have nothing to do with TCP or socket exhaustion. Like, it should be completely unrelated. There is a type of firewall where if something happens in a specific way, then interacts with sockets in such a way that they could be, like, you could see a TCP out of memory. Look at
It's
me, I
not like
can't
the
even
net
remember.
filter, is it?
I think it is. My firewall knowledge not fantastic, and therefore I'm not kept in memory. But I had to do a bunch of research into this, right? And so I eventually asked the AI, can any type of firewall contribute to this, or is it a specific type of firewall? Like, I was asking the leading question because at this point I knew the answer, and then it gave the correct answer. But at its very top original, here's how you might, troubleshoot where this is coming from, it just said firewall in a blanket term. Not wholly correct, not wholly incorrect. And so that is a little bit of the danger, is that again, like, that's like, you have to tune the AI, you have to ask it the right questions, you have to give it the right perspective, it has to know the right things.
Yeah.
Like,
you have to set the mood.
Yeah, you guys, because like if I had an actual TCP and I was having this exact LLM model, like without any additional fine tuning, off to the races, it might go down the track of investigating my firewall, and I may not have the type of firewall that where this would be a consideration, but like it may not immediately, like it won't know that. It may spend a bunch of time and cycles looking over there where it's like, no, that's not going to make any sense because this type of firewall would never touch like TCP. Like, they're not going to interact. Or like the node to node TCP and all that other stuff. Like, it's not going to interact. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting that, like, where it's sort of correct is, I think, where it's so blatantly wrong, I think is kind of like easier to identify, but where it's sort of correct, that's the really hard part, because it sounds so convincing and like it lays it out like in a really good case, but it's like, I was sitting there questioning my sanity. I was like, that's not how firewalls work.
Seems wrong.
That seems wrong. Like, why would that? That's not how firewalls work, though.
I'm not trying to argue with Skynet here, but I feel like this is not right.
Yeah, 100%. The number of times I've said Skynet in the drafts of this book is like, they may make me take it out. We'll see. But yeah, no. So that kind of, I think, is where the danger is on the, or another one of those risks. Like, it's all these risks can be mitigated if you're conscious of them. Like, it can be almost correct. It can be sort of right. It can know something, but not realize that knowledge is actually more specific than broad. Those little, like, pieces that need massaging for AI, like agentic AI agents. I think that's really the trick. And I think that's why a lot of people have the AI agent goes off and it does investigation and it comes back with recommendations instead of just doing them. So it could make a pull request and then a human has to approve the pull request. Or you could be doing it in like a more interactive way where it comes back and says, here's my recommendations. Would you like me to make these changes? And you say yes or no, like kind of right in the little, in the session. A lot of people are kind of doing that where they're letting it go off to the races because it's going to scan that data faster. It's going to pull those logs faster. It's just going to do all of that parsing faster than we will, and certainly faster than like whatever grep with regex we would design to come up with what it could be, right? Especially when you don't know the cause of something. So it can do a really good job of coming back with recommendations very quickly, and we're working faster than a human. So a lot of people are letting it do that, like be good at what it's good at, and then when it comes back with those recommendations, either saying yes, do that, or no, do this instead. And I've
Hmm.
done that when I'm interacting with it as well. It's like, here's what I would do. It'd be like, no, do it this way. I'd be like, okay, and then it'll show an example, like come back with, so this is what you want, and it'll have what I said. It'll be like yes, and then it does the right, and then moves on to the next thing. So I think that's where a lot of people still are with it. I think it's a good place to be with it. But it's just not, there's no, I think, purpose yet in just trying to blanket replace all of your automation, because sometimes dumb automation is fine. Like auto scaling can always be dumb automation. You don't
Hmm.
need an AI to do auto scaling. Now, if you're seeing auto scaling patterns that you're like, why are we always auto scaling at 5 p.m. on Sunday? Then you can have the AI go off and like investigate that and like track it and aggregate the data about the trends and watch it for a while and come back with an analysis. And it's usually a cron job. If something's happening at the same time, at the same day, like, that's a cron job.
Yeah.
But what is that? What is it doing? And what is the opportunity for optimization, right? That is something that, that's a great thing to have AI go around and do. Whereas the actual controlling of auto scaling, dumb automation is correct. And so when we look at things like, so I don't think AI will ever like replace GitOps, for example. And there's a reason there's a reason for GitOps being the way it is. Like, we want this exact thing that we have encoded as the source of truth. We want that everywhere. But it can augment it, right? Because you can identify configuration drifts with it. You can have it leverage GitOps. So like if it finds something that could be better, then it could go and make a pull request. And if that pull request gets approved, then like GitOps and goes and does the thing. So like you can have it interact with stuff, and you can have it kind of watch your GitOps. So like, again, acting as the abstraction layer of, I don't have to be logged into the GitOps system to see what's happening with the GitOps. I don't have to be logged in to over here where, the observability stuff all it lives to go see what's happening with the data, right? I can ask the AI and it'll go out to the various sources and just give me an executive summary of what's happening. That's really cool. You have a thinking face on.
Well, I'm just thinking like, because you said something like with a PR, and I'm like, that'd be kind of cool to, like, because you have all the contributors guides and you can put all these like workflows and stuff like that in place that will, um, it'll check and make sure. Well, there's a checklist that it'll try and run through and see. But it's kind of cool where just thinking if you could interact with that a little bit, like, hey, what am I missing in this PR? Or what about this PR won't accept like the basic criteria to get accepted or whatever, other than, obviously a peer review and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
to go back and go, oh, hey, look, I checked out your PR, and yeah, you need X, Y, and Z, and yeah, it looks like you've got this, but typically the ones that get approved are, they have this and this, just something like that. That'd be kind of, just seems like it'd be kind of neat.
Yeah. Yeah. And it kind of does that a little bit.
Hmm.
So I've had it help me with some like I said, proofs of concept for something larger. And like one thing that I've seen with Copilot is it does this fun thing where it's like, all right, or no, sorry, it was Copilot, but it was with Claude as the model. So it's like, okay, looking at what are the repository norms. So it does look for those things. It looks at the contributing guide. It does kind of already do that. And then it tries to produce code that matches the style of the repository. It just so happens the repository I was adding to, the style is, this code's been here for 5 years and we haven't gone back and retrofitted everything to newer best practices. Which is like, I feel everybody can relate to that a little bit. But so yeah, it is making some attempts to do that, I'm seeing. And you can tell it, hey, you can be explicit with it, following the best practices and the norms of this repo as found in the documentation, do this. I managed to stump it though, because where there already was like existing unit tests, it did a great job of adding to them. but I
Mhm.
found something in the code base that had no unit testing, and I was just like, I wonder. So I was like, go add unit testing for this, and it couldn't do it. And it by the way, successfully reported that it couldn't do it and why it couldn't do it. And it's just like there's some dependencies and other issues. Like it does need a person to go suss out. It was like, I can try to do, like, it needed to go off in like 3 directions to try and pull it all together. And I was like, I'm not gonna, I don't have this kind of time. This was just a quick dumb thing. I'll come back to this when I actually have time for this.
It's too
Um,
much.
it's too much, right? It's too much. It's like, this is complicated. We have end-to-end testing that covers that area, but we don't have unit testing. We have functional testing, but not unit testing.
Hmm.
And part of it is because of what it is, and is actually it's kind of annoying to unit test it because you have to set up some mock objects, and it's all a pain. So anyway, I get why I couldn't do it. I get what I would have had to do. I was like, I'll look at this later. We should add some testing here. It's high on my list, but not it wasn't a right then problem.
Hmm.
And so yeah, so that's the other thing is like, if you do have AI off doing things in an agentic way, it does need some way to come back and surface failures and errors, or it's getting stuck. What I definitely found was like using it with an a coding agent where it's expecting to be able to make some changes. It was able to do that, like, because I was interacting it with a session, but I also like found that I could pretty easily get what is it? I got DeepSeek into infinite loops a few times with like very, very small prompts. It was interesting though, because I got it to do it to infinitely loop, but on a different computer with more VRAM, it didn't infinitely loop with the exact same DeepSeek model and the exact same prompt. So I suspect resource starvation can cause an LLM to misbehave. I haven't gone through like a bunch of proofs on this yet, but I do have screenshots of it works on my machine scenario with it, which I think is really cool. And if I had more time and I wasn't like writing to deadlines, I would absolutely go like way deep dive in it, like, and publish a white paper, because I think that's very, very fascinating. And so but yeah, I do think that is something that if I experienced it with a very like simple experiment on like, but and actually it was my personal laptop versus a cell phone. The cell phone had more VRAM than my laptop, and so the exact same prompt worked on the phone that didn't work on my laptop. And to be fair, it's like it's an older gaming rig. The CPU, the GPU is there, but it's not intended for use with LLMs, right?
Right. Right.
But still, I was like, whoa. And the speed, it was so slow to do everything on my laptop, and on the phone it was really fast. So like that GPU and the amount of VRAM really matters for AI performance. And I haven't seen, like, I'm sure it's somewhere, but I actually went and did some research on this. I couldn't find solid guidance on like resource minimums for models.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
I couldn't
So,
find it.
real quick, what kind of phone do you have? Do you have like, well, you don't have some of the brand, but is it like a newer phone?
I'll tell you the brand. I don't care. So it wasn't my phone. It was my husband's phone. He was using DeepSeek 7, and he has a Pixel 10. I think it's a Pixel 10 Pro, the big one, the extra large one,
Okay.
or Pixel 9. Excuse me, a
Okay.
Pixel 9 Pro. 10's the one that just came out. They keep trying to sell me the 10. I have a
Yeah.
Pixel 9 Pro, the normie sized one.
Hmm.
And I haven't tried to use an LLM on my phone because I don't hate myself. But yeah, so it was kind of one of those things where I was doing it on the computer, and I was telling my husband, like, I don't understand why the new, like, why DeepSeek 7 is struggling with this. And he's like, really? Let me try. And he goes and he tries it on his phone, and it works perfectly. And we're both like,
Well, but it's phones. That's what I was asking, because it was like, like a Pixel 6, right? it's
Yeah.
probably not going to work that great. But his phone now, like especially the newer ones, they're all optimized for AI and stuff like they've
Yes.
got the chips and everything.
Yes,
So
exactly.
it
So
makes
it
sense.
definitely, yeah. But anyway, so I suspect that there's kind of a missing, um, like a missing white paper on like kind of like resources. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, your resources need to look exactly like this, because if you could say a GPU of this amount or newer, but like the reality is it's like the RAM, right, on something like I have a Mac Studio with an M1 chip, and all of the RAM on that computer is shared as VRAM, which makes it accessible to the LLM. So even though that's actually an older machine, it works really great. Whereas
Hmm.
my gaming rig, the RAM is not shared as VRAM to the GPU. A portion of it is, but not all of it. So that gaming rig can't use an LLM very well. And on the phone, it's more similar to the Mac Studio that I mentioned, where it has all of its RAM is shared as VRAM, so it can do whatever, like and that's because, like you said, the chipset knows to do it. It can do whatever resource allocation is required for the AI. So I think that was actually really cool, and I suspect that as you start using these things at scale, even if you're using appropriately new hardware, you may start seeing issues due to resource starvation, due to like number of instances running or so on. And I don't know how to quantify that into useful guidance for people who want to do AIOps. But I did find that works on my machine scenario, and it also interferes with the success of your development environment, right? If you're trying to do some development work and like get stuff set up so that you're going to have a successful AIOps implementation, you need a actually fairly expensive either like computer in front of you, like a fairly expensive one, or you need to be doing all your development in some cloud environment, which may or may not make sense. So
Well, and that's going to
that,
cost you.
yeah, and that's going to cost you. That's not cheap.
Yeah, it's
So I think,
interesting. Like, sorry, I keep cutting you off. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say that I thought that was really fascinating. That whole experience.
Well, it's interesting when you think about it, right? Because it's like right now, everybody's got these models, right? They've got their
Mhm.
bot that does whatever, and like the data set might be relatively small. But then when you start injecting like larger data sets, and maybe you go into production, and now you've got years and years, decades of data, or especially like in
Mm-hmm.
the medical field or research fields and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, how do you train that model economically? Do you break it up in chunks, and then is that even possible where you can split it up in chunks and then put it back together? It
You
seems.
can actually split the data into chunks. You can do data sampling instead.
Oh,
This
okay,
depends
instead
on
of
your
the whole.
business cases. So you can do data
Hmm.
sampling instead. Data sampling is actually one of the things we're recommending. Yeah, you do data sampling and then store it. So one thing that you could do is you have your AI op thing, uh, do the data sampling, pull out what it identifies as the most important data samples, and store that, and then you can start disregarding other stuff. Um, a lot of our systems, like especially like in logging and so forth, are very noisy, and so when you are troubleshooting something, you're inspecting logs and so on, like you have to filter out a lot of stuff. You end up with these really long greps with a bunch of regex attached to it so that you don't get the noise, right?
Yes, minus B.
Yeah. Yep. Like ignore
Awk.
anything like this. Give me anything that looks like this. Um, and
Ugh.
so yeah, the AI can and it kind of is a natural fuzzy search, right? Whereas when you're grepping, it's like very what's the opposite of fuzzy search? What's the word? I lost it.
I don't even know. So.
So before the concept of Elasticsearch and all that other stuff, like where it would give you things that it found were related,
Hmm.
which is what we kind of call now fuzzy search. When you search something, it would only give you back exact matches, right? So that's why, like, if you're grepping for car, and you've got, I can't think of a containing word that has car in it, but like if you got another word that has
Scar.
scar, yeah, scar, for example, would show up.
Yeah.
Unless you do like space, and all that other stuff, right? So with fuzzy search, it kind of recognizes that you want car, and scar is probably not what you're looking for, and it'll give you back only like car, but it also might give you automobile or
Oh, okay. So like relatable or related.
related things. It may give you sedan,
Hmm.
for example, but it wouldn't give you scar because that's not what you want.
Right.
So that's like the problem with like when you're doing a grep statement, right? If you don't exactly like, I need space here and this or that with the other, like you can end up with containing things. And so that's like kind of like the nice thing about having the an AI agent or an AI assistant go do all that pull out is it will automatically kind of recognize that. It's like, okay, if I want things that are like panics, I want things that are like errors.
Hmm.
Sometimes, bizarrely, there will be something important in an info. It's, it happens now and again for some reason. It's I think most engineering teams have gotten much better about that, but like I've seen it in the past. Um, I don't know if an AI would be able to identify like that this info is important and this info is not. But in theory, like it can do all that stuff. And if it didn't get it right the first time, then you can tell it and that can learn and it'll get it right the second or the third time as you interact with it more.
Yeah.
So that idea that like you're guiding its learning by giving it feedback on what it did well and what it didn't do well as it goes through, um, it eventually like that it's going to be more consistently correct as it goes through. So, but you do need to be actually like having an environment where you can be working with it and training it and teaching it. And yeah, I think that's like the biggest thing I found with that was like I had to switch off of my preferred working computer to a different working computer. Of course, I didn't actually do that. I just set up the other computer to work with SSH, and so then I just SSH into from my preferred computer
Yeah.
because I don't hate
That seems
myself.
right. That
I
seems
don't
right.
hate myself. But yeah, so definitely, I definitely saw works on my machine type of situation happen with a fairly lightweight LLM. And it was one of the smaller DeepSeek 7 models, like the smallest one. So definitely, if you think about like the larger ones, that's actually going to be a challenge to work through. Is that it worked on my machine, it worked over here, and it worked differently over here. I think realistically, what you're going to see is potentially resource starvation in production, depending on like how everything's going on. So I think using AI to monitor and watch all that, like and report back on that information is kind of maybe not the right thing because if those are the like that's the restricted resource and that's that like denominator that could be a problem, that might be a case where dumb automation is better,
Yeah.
right? So that you can watch the most important resource in a way that doesn't utilize the most important resource.
Do you remember what was the? We had somebody come on the stream once, and they had like it's like a help desk AI kind of thing. It was basically like the
I think Holmes
PagerDuty type.
GPT,
Holmes
right?
GPT. That's
Yeah,
what
a
it
ton.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been using it for the book because I like it.
Yeah.
Also, they are working on donating that to the CNCF, which makes it a very easy choice for the book. Um, and little shout
Nice.
out to Robusta for developing that. I think Microsoft has signed on with them and is helping to sponsor it into the CNCF. That's all really exciting. The Holmes GPT stuff. Like if you're interested
That's
in
awesome.
AIOps and like S3 agents, I really recommend that. It's a lot of fun. Um, I actually reported a bug to them about it, and I did hear that they fixed it. So my way of reporting a bug is very lazy because I just text Natan because we're friends.
Yeah. But dude.
Should I have opened a GitHub issue? Yes. Did I? No.
No.
You're welcome.
Yes.
And
And
so yeah,
a lot of
shout
times
out to them.
you create the issue or the PR, you get like the fist bump. They're like, oh, hey, you done this thing. Like at this point, I'd be like, I texted the guy. All right, we're
I
good.
texted the guy. That's what I did. I found a bug, let him know, texted it, worked around the bug for my example because it wasn't a big deal. And then yeah, you will see Holmes GPT in my book quite a bit because I think it's very fantastic. I like it a lot.
We should have that person. We should have him come back because I
We
remember that.
should. I think he would love to come back, and I think that we could get him to come back with some of his engineering team as well. So I will. Guess what I'll do? I'll text him.
Awesome. Yeah, let
But
me
yeah,
just
they've
share a
added
link
so
here.
many features to that since we had them on the stream. So having them back would make a lot of sense. It is a very, very cool tool. And I stand by what they're doing there. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, it was a little before the hype too, which was kind of
It
cool. Like
was.
you know,
It
like
was.
AI was like starting to be a thing, you know what I mean? And then like
Mm-hmm.
they were coming out, and then it was like, holy crap, AI's on the it's the new platform engineering, it's the new Kubernetes, like it's the
It,
crazy crazy.
yeah, it's for sure. Yeah, no, they were very very on the cutting edge there, very well timed,
Hmm.
very forward looking. And so I think that's why what I'm experiencing with using it is their Homes GPT has a lot of maturity to it because they were on the fort, like they've been on the forefront of it, right? And
Yeah.
they've been keeping on that cutting edge. So it's definitely, I haven't explored every tool. It's definitely the most mature one for the situation, for like for everything thus far.
Hmm.
Um, and it really is because I just already took that time and uh got that knowledge and everything baked into the GPT. So like you give it to an LLM backend of your choice. For like laziness, I just went ahead and got a couple tokens and hooked it up to OpenAI because that was just an easy thing.
Yeah.
Um, and like I mentioned, I was at that point in time having issues with LLMs running on my rig. So I just shot that off to the cloud, spent like $10 or whatever I did. But yeah, no, it's definitely got that maturity and that knowledge that, if you're trying to do something from scratch, you're going to have to figure out how to do. Or just use theirs because it's open source. I would do that. I am doing
Yeah.
that. And I also believe that it is like been made available for like it's like the tool of choice for AKS. So not that AKS SREs are using it, but that Microsoft is like saying, if you're an AKS customer, you should use this. It will work well on our systems. My understanding is that is how it's positioned now because Microsoft saw it, saw the great work they've been doing, jumped on it with them. Like I said, is working on co-sponsoring it donate to the CNCF. This may become the industry standard, and then we can brag that we had it on the stream way back when it was in its infancy.
Hell yeah, that is I'm wow, that's awesome. I'm really happy for them.
I'm over
That's
the moon
awesome.
happy for them, and I admire Natan and his commitment, him and his co-founders, and all of Robusta's commitment to open source. We are out of time, and I just ended up like just bragging on my friend a little bit here. But I recommend this. I absolutely 100% recommend Homes GPT. I think it is absolutely lovely to work with. Their documentation thus far has been excellent. I haven't found any problems in their documentation. It works exactly like if you just follow their little get started guide, it works exactly like they describe out of the box. Um,
That's a plus right there.
that's a big plus. And I'm excited to continue to experiment with it and put it through its paces for this book I'm writing. Like I'm going to really challenge it as soon as I figure out how to give it a bunch of broken stuff to look at. That's the harder
Yeah.
part. Like, how do I break something horribly?
Mm.
I have ideas. That would be a fun thing for us to talk about as chaos engineering in a different stream. Maybe when we're back. We are out of time today. This discussion went fast. I hope people learned some stuff. If not, shrug, sorry. Maybe when we're back, we can talk about chaos engineering a little bit because I think that's actually really interesting. But yeah, we're not going to be back for a few weeks because I'm going on vacation. When are we back? Right. Yeah, I'm on vacation on the 23rd. So not then. I'm still on vacation on the 6th. So not then. How do you feel about November 13th?
Sounds
We'll
good to
put it on
me.
the calendar. We'll figure it out. It'll go on the public calendar when we come back. Yeah, this year for this stream has been horrible with me out for so long for medical leave. But look, I can use my shoulder.
I was gonna ask how's everything after the stairs? So it looks like everything's all healed
I
up.
definitely I didn't undo the surgery. I definitely pulled all these muscles. Let's try
Mm.
not to fall down the stairs again. That's the goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, not my finest moment, certainly. Um, yeah, so but yeah, I can use my shoulder again. That's very exciting. I can even type and everything. It's great. Still have to wear my sling sometimes. So not
Yeah.
completely recovered yet. But yeah, between that and then the fact that I've had this family vacation plan since before I knew I was going to have surgery, this is a bad year for this stream. So we're going to get back to it towards the end of the year. And then hopefully next year we're going to have even more awesome stuff. But like, it's already October. I don't know what
I
happened.
know. No, I know. Yes. It's the same with the other one too. Like it's just been like I feel like April kind of snuck up on me, and then next thing I knew, it was like the end of July, and I'm like, and
What?
now here it's October. Yeah. So
Right? What happened? This year was
yeah.
nuts. It went so fast. But yeah, so we'll be diving back more into this. Let me see if I can get Natan to come in for that stream in November. I think that'd be very exciting for all of us. And maybe there'll be
Yeah,
updates
that'd be
to
cool.
the CNCF donation and all that other stuff that he can share.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, thank you, GitOpsians, for watching. Hopefully you learned some stuff about AI and ops and the fun of it. Like I said, I had thoughts. These are my thoughts. And I look forward to sharing more as I learn more about this, because this has been a very, very fun couple of months that I've been spending on this project, and I have several more months to go.
Awesome. All right.
All right. Peace out. Choose tech debt wisely. Bye-bye.